Grand Rising, peace and blessings. This is your boy Supreme coming at you today, and I have a document that I want to read. And the name of this document is The Nature of the Remedy and a Totally Corrupt Judicial System by Jim Rivers and Obi-Wan Kenobi. What is the purpose of this white paper? In the simplest form, it is to address the question that is asked by almost every so-called freeman and inmate who has ever been railroaded by a totally corrupt so-called judicial system. For the individual who knows they have actually committed crimes against their fellow man, the outrage of being incarcerated is severely subdued by the self-admission of guilt and expectation of punishment if caught. So it is the truly outraged individual railroaded by the system who will be the most motivated to make the concerted effort to understand the information presented here and pursue its remedy. What is the system? Without a foundational understanding of what the system actually is, and some understanding of how it got that way, there's virtually no possibility of understanding and correctly implementing the remedy. The subject of what the system actually is, as opposed to what the system appears to be, could easily encompass a 1,000-page book. A history book explaining the events of the past that led up to the present state of the system could easily fill up several thousand pages. And even if such books were in your possession, would you make the effort to digest the information? And even more important, how could you know it was the truth, or was it just a bunch of half-baked theories that fall apart upon the serious examination by objective analysis? Obviously, this extremely brief paper will make no attempt to prove anything stated herein. Everything stated within regarding the system will of necessity be simply asserted as fact, firmly established as irrefutable, yet facts that will probably contradict everything you thought you understood about the system. You either have to face up to the fact that you have been deceived and lied to all your life about almost everything you think you know, or you will remain a victim to the global financial prison that the entire world is now a part of, also referred to as the system. For those of you, the vast majority of humanity, who believe that such an evil global system of grand deception and enslavement cannot possibly exist, the mere suggestion of it sounding like the utterances of those conspiracy nuts and usually dismissed as kooks, I suggest you immediately cease reading any further, since I have no intention of communicating with the hopelessly brain-dead masses on these matters. It goes against my nature to be simply making assertions that are not backed up with rigorous proof, but I am of necessity going to have to just move forward and assert the facts as irrefutable truth. If you demand the truth in life without compromise, you will eventually come to the same truth about the system. And what do I mean by the system? The system consists of all the institutions that man has created to organize, control, sustain itself, in particular, government, religion, and commerce. There are no sharp demarcations between these three institutional entities, and in fact, are so hopelessly intertwined that I will refer to them as the system. See the Matrix movie again and again and again. The foundational facts to understand. Fact number one, the system in today's world on a global widespread basis is now completely dominated, controlled by the forces of darkness. In other words, Satan, Lucifer, the devil. This is not some mystical, superstitious ravens. The dark forces are absolutely for real and extremely ingenious in the science of controlling the people's thinking, and control all governments of men and the vast, overwhelming majority of all religions, and in particular, all of so-called Christendom, not true Christianity, represented by the headlet upon the beast in Revelation scripture. And for our analysis, the most important realization is that the dark forces totally control all the financial economic systems, in particular banking, the principal control level point of the commerce game and the resulting enslavement of all mankind. There is ample, if not massive, confirmation that one indeed seems to be now well approaching the final battle of righteousness over Satan's pure evil. Fact number two, probably as much as a little over 80% of the American people still believe that man's problems can be solved by political action, voting, having an informed opinion on political matters. They accept what they hear on the media and believe that authority can be trusted. Less than 10% of this group will ever realize how profoundly deceived they have been. Fact number three, the world and all its resources, its most important being the human slave resources, are in fact controlled by extremely wealthy and powerful families whose indigenous extortion strategies have become the foundation of the world economy. Global economic slavery through the creation of fictional indebtedness by imposition of centralized banking to ultimately deprive the people of all property and freedom. Fact number four, secret societies such as Illuminati, Luciferians, Freemasonry, 33 level and above, and others are keepers of arcane knowledge that guarantees the keeping of ordinary people in political, economic, and spiritual bondage. Major breakthroughs in the sciences, such as physics, medicine, engineering, etc., have long been consistently suppressed by these groups for purposes of maintaining plunder and control of the unthinking masses. Fact number 5. The original de jure Republican form of government given to us by our founding fathers, referred to as the United States of America, small u, has been replaced by stealth and deception with a private, foreign-owned and operated for profit, actually plunder, de facto corporate democracy, not a republic. In actuality, a municipal corporation of the District of Columbia or the United States. The United States being incorporated in England, our former enemy, in 1878. Fact number 6. The state of New York, or any state of, referred to the legitimate de jure republic, a party to the Constitution for the United States of America, small u, but unincorporated, no physical boundaries defining their constitution, municipal corporate instrumentality of the United States, fraudulently established under the Buck Act of 1940. These de facto government impersonators have no actual lawful authority over any inhabitants of the several states of the Union. Being ultra vires and null teal, the corporate charter, they are the purest form of total fraud and deception against the people. Fact number 7. All the state courts found within the state of New York or state of any state being brought into existence under the fraudulent authority of state of have never had any lawful authority over the inhabitants, only over the fictions they create and the trustees of those fictions, never the sovereigns unless tricked into being a co-trustee. Fact number 8. In order to overcome the total lack of lawful authority over inhabitants in their bogus courts of fictional constructive trusts, your name spelled in all capitalization, in fact another federal instrumentality, is created under fraud to deceive the inhabitant into believing he is subject to the private, copyrighted statutory whims of the de facto corporate government impersonator. Fact number 9. All so-called judges who in fact are in the business of enforcing private copyrighted statutes and codes are judicial officers, but rather mere executive administrators of a private, for-profit, plunder municipal corporation having absolutely no legal, lawful authority over the sovereign inhabitants. Fact number 10. The United States and its instrumentalities, such as State of New York, created constructive trusts named after inhabitants of the land, names spelled in all capital letters, in order to deprive the lawful inhabitant of his true identity and substantive rights and fraudulently make the inhabitant liable for the debts and obligations of the United States and all its instrumentalities. Fact number 11. The United States and its instrumentalities, such as State of New York, never recognized lawful inhabitants of the land and only recognized the fictitious creations of the United States and its other instrumentalities. Fact number 12. The United States District Court is constituted in the several states a party to the Constitution are completely outlawed, illegitimate, constitutionally unauthorized private courts impersonating the true Article 3 courts referred to as the District Court of the United States, which no longer exists anywhere and cannot be elicited into existence by any known means. Fact number 13. The so-called Supreme Court of the United States is currently non-functioning as an Article 3 constitutionally authorized court, but rather only as the High Admiralty Court. They consistently assert no comment when confronted with the simple question, are you the one Supreme Court described in Article 3 of the Constitution for the United States of America? Do you wonder why? Fact number 14. The corporate de facto democracy, not the de jure republic of the United States of America, went into bankruptcy in 1933, creating a legal vacuum, the void of which was filled by the fiction construct of fraud that led to the judicial system becoming the most corrupt legal system in the world without peer. An identified recent candidate for nomination to the Supreme Court of the United States, Edith Jones, appellate judge, publicly stated, the American legal system is corrupt almost beyond all recognition. Fact number 15. All so-called crimes are in fact strictly a commercial matter, as stated in 27 CFR 72.11. CFR means Code of Federal Regulations. Facts number 16. Ever since June 5, 1933, because of the bankruptcy of the United States, when House Joint Resolution 192 was unanimously passed, it became public policy per law 7310. All products of the industrial economic system of legal, lawful necessity, prepaid. In other words, everything must be paid for by the government to preclude the charges of high treason against Congress. Secretary of Treasury, Board of Governors of Federal Reserve Bank, and the Comptroller of the Currency. This is a historical, irrefutable fact that has been kept secret from you for over 90 years. Time to wake up, maybe. What can we conclude from these facts? Now, these particular assertions being stated as facts, the following conclusions can be readily arrived at. 1. Pursuing any remedy within the so-called courts is the proverbial barking up the wrong tree, since the so-called courts have an immense financial incentive, as much as $10,000 a day per inmate, to convict any and everyone, innocent or guilty, is totally irrelevant. The pretend courts only rake in the big bucks upon securing convictions at all costs, or as a compromise, obtain lucrative bribes from its victims. Number 2. There exists virtually no man, woman of integrity left anywhere in the so-called judicial system, because potential whistleblowers are not tolerated. The exceptions are indeed far and few between, and those remaining few are virtually powerless to help you. Number 3, much as Chicago mobster Al Capone was virtually untouchable against the direct activities he engaged in, he was vulnerable indirectly through issues of taxation. Number 4, the courts, consisting of the clerk of the court, prosecutor, deputy prosecutor, pretend judge, and the defense attorney, are all profoundly vulnerable to the issues of tax delinquency against their person for the bonds, bills, true bills being generated off the credit of its accused victims as products of statutes. A product of a statute is nothing more than, let us say, a product of an industrial factory that builds automobiles. All these products are indeed prepaid, yet the people in their profound ignorance are expected to somehow pay for these things, even though after the United States bankruptcy, the people no longer could pay their debts at law, since it was now legally impossible. No precious metals back the currency anymore after the confiscation of the gold by executive order. We forget who the real sovereigns are. It is precisely this inability of the people to pay at law their debts that empowers them under Public Law 7310 to be able to exercise their exempt from paying, to achieve set-off mutual cancellation of debt for any and all debts that the sovereign accepts. We are all sovereigns pursuant to the unanimous Declaration of Independence of July 4, 1776, making us subject to no other men, only God, the absolute sovereign. All men are created equal. Now do you remember? We, being the sovereign, are the only source of commercial energy. All funds that exist within the economy ultimately belong to a sovereign inhabitant of the land. No government has the capacity to generate any positive commercial energy, only to generate destruction, death, a pure parasitical existence upon the productivity and energy of the sovereigns. These concepts are not some pie in the sky mental exercise, but are the hard reality that the dark forces fully recognize and go to such lengths to keep hidden from us. With great ingenuity and cunning, the dark forces have attempted to totally neutralize these impediments to achieving total enslavement of sovereigns by making them think they are subject to their servants, the greatest of all con jobs in the history of man. Is there anything we can do? So how do we turn the table on the greed, total corruption, and infinite evil in control of this wicked system to assert our sovereignty, to restore the de jure republic where everyone is a sovereign with no subjects, and put a stop to this domestic terrorism, rape, robbery, and pillaging being committed against the sovereigns? Should we just wait for the promised divine destruction of the entire global system, as guaranteed to eventually happen in the scriptures, that admittedly has 1,000% bad and average so far? Or, if we have the knowledge to do so, to put into action that can free the unjustly incarcerated and help set up circumstances that can severely curtail, if not cause to implode upon itself by its own accord, the criminal enterprise impersonating the judicial system. Since the criminal enterprise impersonating the judicial system is protected, supported, and mutually profiting from the plunder they generate all the way to the Supreme Courts of both state and federal venues, they actually are in the same one federal system. Since the state is a mere federal instrumentality, that we must seek remedy outside of the state and federal so-called government de facto that has a superior position. The United States and its federal instrumentalities, such as the state of New York, all went bankrupt in 1933 and went into receivership. The creditor in the bankruptcy is the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, which uses the collection enforcement branch called the Internal Revenue Service to service payments into the phony bankruptcy that is being used as a subterfuge to extort money from the people through the income tax scam. The federal tax forms provide a tool for remedy. The federal tax form, always suggested for use for extortion of funds from individuals, is the 1040 form, OMB number 1545-0074, Even though upon examination of the Office of Management and Budget, Congress mandated listings of what this form is to be used for, showing absolutely no applicability to the subject of individual income tax. It is totally purposeless to protest any aspect of the surrealistic income tax scam. The form totally supports your tax position you will be asserting. An example federal tax form 1040 filed for John Q. Doe, all capital letters, designates a legal fiction trust entity is provided. Notice the perjury statement states that you have examined the return and accompanying schedules and statements you make, and to the best of your knowledge and belief, it is true, correct, and complete. This will work to you in your favor, as we shall see, and protect you. I call your attention to line 21 in its attachment, which contains a statement that certain issues were being held by recipients. The, the eligible issues are the listed items in the example. The appearance bond for case number CR 555555 was listed. Since the bond was issued, use your identity as the commercial entity backing the bond, even though the appearance bond may have only been posted at arraignment and never actually exercised. This changes nothing in the nature of the bond itself. What is necessary to understand is that the bond is issued, posted, and obtains its value, commercial energy, from the credit, commercial energy of the actual living soul, the principal creditor that is being involved, compelled to appear. One may think the appearance bond is a worthless document if not exercised to obtain release until trial, but in fact it is a commercial instrument having commercial value. Remember, all crime is commercial, equal to the assigned amount. I'm gonna pause right here, and what I have is a disclaimer, and it says recommendations, suggestions, and advice in any legal or financial matters is not offered. Do not take my word on face value. Do your own research, because you will only be as good as your own research. And I'm going to stop right here on page number 6, actually, and I'll come back and read some more at a later time.